Well, ladies and gentlemen, Jacob Licklider here, and I just finished watching The Lie of the Land, the 8th episode in Series 10. Well, I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is this episode I enjoyed much better than last week's episode. However, I still can't classify it as good, mainly because, well, this is gonna be a problem because of the ending of this. The ending of the episode is really what made this episode fail on all of its accounts. It reminds. This is a very divided one. I don't hate it like many people are hating it, and I'm not going to say it's the best thing ever. Why? Because it's reusing stuff that, as someone who's read 1984, it's very 1984. It's trying to be 1984. And for a moment there, you feel like Toby Whithouse actually wants to go down a slightly different route than just doing the full 1984, but he doesn't have that much time. So spoiler warning, I'm gonna spoil this. So there's a point where the plan is to get the monks to leave the Earth. The Doctor is going to, basically going to try to disrupt the link because either he disrupts the link and he puts his vision of what the world should be in the world space, and getting rid of the monks, or they've just got to kill Bill. Now that's really where I have the problem because while the Doctor is very much a noble character, if you know the character, he's still very flawed, and Toby Whithouse, it feels like Toby Whithouse really wanted to go down that route with having the Doctor basically be the idea of the monks, basically the monks working off the Doctor and his view of the world. That would be a very interesting, sort of a very interesting contrast. Sort of also, it would kind of make some of the political commentary a bit less. I don't want to say one-sided because it wasn't totally one-sided, but it would make it a bit more interesting, and it'd make it something different. Have the Doctor become the evil dictator, not becoming evil. And you can cliffhanger it on the Doctor realizing, oh no, what have I done? Then he gets put in the whole trance, and he's leader of the world, and another episode has to be given to Bill and Nardole, possibly just Bill, or maybe even Bill working with Missy and having to get him out of it because, the Master, a universe what the Doctor scarcely bears thinking about, of course. That is really, and how I would have done it is I would have restructured the last 3 episodes. I would have had the entirety of Extremis cut down into about half of its length because a lot of it probably could have been done. As much as I really did like Extremis was a good episode. It could have been cut down to probably half of its length, and then the first maybe about a cut sort of, or maybe even a little longer than a big cut down version of Pyramid at the End of the World. The first half, yeah, no, the first half, or maybe even the full thing being dedicated to that. The second half being the first episode of the first half of the last week's, and then the final half of the last week's being the Lie of the Land, ending with the Doctor's taking over from the monks, and then maybe this week's episode being a sort of the Doctor as a dictator and having to solve that. That probably would have been it's a really big missed opportunity to have a fully fleshed out story like that, and it would use the sixth episode format, to its sort of advantage with having a sort of a 4 episodes going one way and then having that big twist in the middle of basically at the end of episode 4 and switching over for 2 episodes to another like Classic Who would do. Because when Classic Who did that, that actually works really well. But other than that, that's not what we have. So I think it's a bit it's a bit important to realize what we actually have for the episode, which is of course the first half. Again, it's great. It's really good. I really did enjoy it, but Whithouse kind of wrote himself into a corner with the whole the Doctor can't, die. Sure, there were a couple of problems. The regeneration fake out kind of bugged me quite a lot. That bugged me a little bit, but that it feels like, it just bugged me. Missy at the end, at the very very end of the episode, that clip bugged me a lot because she's not acting like the Master. Though, even though in this one she actually got kind of close to acting like the Master by basically saying, I'm sorry, Doctor, you're going to have to kill your own companion. If you want to defeat the monks, that's the only way. That just sounds like something the Master would do. But other than that, you really, the second half really has the problems. As soon as they realize that, basically trying to, because the ending is paramount. You have one, you miss this whole opportunity to have the Doctor become the dictator, a full dictator, which would have been a really interesting, made for an interesting story, and then, um, you have the world being saved because of the pictures that the Doctor gave to Bill in the pilot of her mother, that allowed her to connect. And I can see where it's coming from. That just doesn't satisfactorily end. I mean, it sort of makes sense and it doesn't at the same time, which kind of a contradiction when you think about it. But I mean, you have Bill who doesn't know her mother, but love of something, pure love would save the day. Which that's just sort of a thing I don't like. It reminds me of the problems with the Rings of Akaten's ending, where Clara kills the entity with that leaf, which I also have problems with, even though I actually quite like the Rings of Akaten. So you have a lot of things that it just doesn't add up. I can't help but say, but I still overall obviously Woodhouse is a good writer, which I mean the first half proved it, and even if it's bad, it's still the dialogue's still good. The characters, Peter Capaldi, my God, that man has this expressionable face where it's like, it's this very because obviously you have the Orwell parody with the Doctor being Big Brother, and then there's even a little reference to the 2 minutes of hate, just sprinkled in there, sort of like, oh, go the monks down with our enemies, and of course it's doing the whole Orwell gambit. I mean, just reskinning things like you don't have thought police, you have memory police, which that one's actually a bit more Brave New World, let's be honest. Actually, why don't we do a Doctor Who based off of Brave New World? The last, I mean, the closest thing we've ever gotten was sort of the Brains of Morphiton segment from Keys of Marinus that I can ever really think of, because that would be cool, a cool novel to explore. Brave New World, I quite like it. I think I might like it better than 1984. Seriously, if you haven't read it, track down Brave New World. It's a good read. But only if you're over the age of probably 15, because it's a bit more adult. But yeah, that said, a lot of the episode really does seem to work very well for what it's doing, and it knows what it wants to be, but it just that ending really crushes it a lot. I mean, however, I mean, even if I were to do it in my photography form, I would definitely have Bill's mother be. I liked Bill's narration throughout. It was a good way to get the plot done, and I like using her mother as a way for her to connect to the truth, but I just don't think that's not strong enough for the plot. I don't know. I think they should have tried to figure out some other way, rework a couple things just so that, I mean, maybe a bit more, maybe make it be like just something that's already been established. Like the obvious solution is something that's been hidden right in front of their noses, which I don't think it did. So I'm gonna have to give The Lie of the Land a 5 out of 10. But looking ahead, next week we have Mark Gatiss, who I like a lot of his books. I like some of his Who episodes. He's writing for the Ice Warriors, which he did an okay job in Cold War, but this one's taking place on Mars, and it seems like it's doing sort of a transplanting Victorian soldiers onto Mars. Sort of, it kind of reminds me of it's wanting to be like a John Carter of Mars type thing, which might be interesting. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that. So hopefully the next week's episode is better. But until then, thanks for watching. I'll see you. I'll be uploading in a couple of hours with the Fragile Yellow Arc of Fragrance. But until then, yeah, just leave a like, comment what you thought of this episode, see if you disagree with me, because I feel like I might get a lot of disagreement for this one. Because people are praising it as amazing, but I just don't see it as that amazing. Goodbye. Right, so I forgot to mention a couple of things. First, the direction of this episode was really, really good. It was done by Wayne Yip, who did he did a couple of episodes of Class, which he only did. One of the episodes of Class that I saw him direct actually was directed really well, and Tears, no doubt. I'm glad they brought him over to Doctor Who to direct something marginally better than Class. And second, Matt Lucas as Nardole is actually really growing on me as a character. I didn't think I'd like him. He isn't going to be like my favorite, I think, but he's enjoyable for what he is. And Matt Lucas and Pearl Mackie have some great comedic timing together, as well as Matt Lucas and Peter Capaldi. So yeah, just wanted to add those in there. But still stands as a 5 out of 10.